One of the very famous Shiva saints of the four that we know of is Thirunavukkarasar. Um, and you would normally find him like this in this picture over here with with an instrument across his hand. It's a very famous idol of him. And similar to this, you would see pictures of Thirunavukkarasar. And he was very famous for the song which starts with Kootrayi Navaru, a very beautiful Thevaram. And so let's find out more about Thirunavukkarasar. Now, again, going back in time, 1300 years back, there is this town called Tiruvamur. And so in the map here again, Chennai, and if you go a little more south, you have Kadalur. So close to Kadalur is this town called Tiruvamur. Now, back then, a small town, and there was this family. The father was named Pugarenar, mother Madiniyar. They had an older daughter called Tilagavidiyar and a son called Marul Nikiyar. Now, when Marul Nikiyar was very young, Tilagavadiyar was married off to a very nice person. But this man, the person who married Tilagavadiyar, who is some Marul Nikiyar's sister, he had to go on a war to help the king fight a neighboring state. And unfortunately, this young man died. And on hearing this news, the father was very upset. Pugurenar was very upset, and he died in grief. And seeing that, the mother also passed away. Now, the two people were orphaned. Tilagavadiyar and her brother, Marul Nikiyar, were orphaned. No one to take care of them. And Tilagavadiyar, having lost her husband at a very young age, she also decided there's no point in me living, because in those days, women very much depended on the men around them for living. And she said, forget it, there's no point in me living. And so she also wanted to give up her life. But Marul Nikiyar asked her, requested her, pleaded with her, please don't, leave me alone over here to struggle. You have me. And Tilagavadiyar very beautifully made the decision to live her life just for her brother. And she brought up her brother with all love and care that a mother would give. And thus, Marul Nikiyar grew up to be a young man. And for the longest time, he was very fascinated by this religion called Jainism. We were discussing about that in one of our previous videos. Jainism was a very prevalent religion back then in India, and it had a lot of followers because the rules of Jainism were very interesting. And even today, we have a lot of people following Jainism. And at that time, Marul Nikiyar also converted to Jainism. So until then, they always prayed to Lord Shiva. They followed Shaivism. But he completely converted to Jainism and decided to go to a Jain monastery close to Kadalur. And he converted there, and he took on the name called Dharmasena. Now, Marul Nikiyar was a very intelligent person. And once he converted to Jainism, he had a lot of scholarly debates with many people, and he got actually to be very famous as Dharmasena. His sister was very upset because she was a follower of Shiva, and she felt sad that her brother could not see the greatness of Lord Shiva. This went on for some time. And one fine day, Dharmasena started getting a severe stomachache. And it grew to be very intolerable. All his Jain friends, monks and doctors, he went to everyone and no one could cure him. And there was a point of time he couldn't tolerate it. He just dropped everything at the monastery and wrote to his sister and said, please come and save me. My stomachache is terrible. And she refused to come from her home. She said, you come here. I cannot come there. And he left everything, like forget everything. I just want to, this stomachache, I just want it to go away. And he goes back to his sister and he tells him, and that's the picture over there on the left. And she takes him to the local Shiva temple and prays over there for her brother's good health. And this is supposed to be a miracle, because what he was suffering for months and doctors couldn't cure and no one could do anything, he comes here to this temple, and after his sister prays for him, he's cured. Nothing, no signs of any stomachache. And that is when Dharmasena realized, or he thought that he decided to convert back to Shaivism. And now he became known as a very great saint, because he would go to many temples. So he actually traveled 126 temples by foot. And he would go and sing very, very amazing songs in praise of Lord Shiva. And since his songs were so good, he began to be known as Thirunavukkarasar. Nav means the tongue. Right? The tongue is used for two things. One is to taste food and one is to say good words. Right? It's meant for saying good words. And Nav is tongue for speaking. Arasar is the king. So he became the king of the tongue, which is to say good words. And Thiru is a title. And his fame spread all around. And people would come in flocks to meet him, to hear him sing. And he had a lot of difficulties in his life. If you see here, a picture of him is he's tied on a stone and thrown into the middle of the ocean. He had a lot of trials in life. There were many people who didn't like him, who wanted him no more, but nothing could happen to him. And there is one beautiful event in his life which happened where one of the other Shiva saints, who's Thirunyana Sambandar, he gets to meet him. And Thirunavukkarasar became very old. And Thirunyana Sambandar met him as a child. And he called him as Appa. Appa with the respect, which is Appar. And so that is a new name that Thirunavukkarasar got. And he grew to be a very old man, around 81 years, a long life. And in that long life, the number of hymns he wrote were 5,000 hymns, a lot. But again, what is left today is just 300 now. And so today we remember Thirunavukkarasar through his many songs and his life stories, which what I'm telling you right now is also compiled and written somewhere. And we also know him for many incidents in his life of his devotion to God. And so that is the story of Thirunavukkarasar and how he became a great Shiva saint and left us with a beautiful literature of Tamil songs. Thank you.